What's going on, everybody? It's James again, and today I'm going to be doing a video on something that I find kind of funny, actually. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how you can play backup copies of games on a Sega Saturn that's not modded. There's no mod chips in here. There is a small hardware mod, but it's pretty much just Scotch tape, which is kind of funny sounding. But so yeah, I'm going to show you guys how to hot swap on a Sega Saturn Model 2. I don't know if this is the same procedure for Model 1 because I don't have one to try it on. And yeah, so it's really simple actually. And like, you're asking, why would you want to do this on a Sega Saturn? Well, unfortunately, from what I'm seeing, some of these games cost a fuck ton of money. If you're like me and you love playing games, you know, unfortunately, it's kind of hard to get some of them because some of them are really expensive. Like, for instance, I saw Panzer Dragoon Saga being sold on eBay for $3,000. I mean, it was factory sealed, but still, $3,000 fucking dollars? Are you kidding me? Fuck that, man. That can go towards something more meaningful, like 3 months of rent or car payments. Why, you know, unless I'm stupid rich, which I'm really not. Although I would like to be. Anyway, so I'm going to show you how to hot swap on the Sega Saturn Model 2. It's really simple, and you know, you'll be able to play games that you normally wouldn't be able to because you can't afford them. For instance, right here I got a copy of Initial D, which is the Japanese version, region patch for USA, and got Sonic 3D Blast, which is an awesome game, and we got Madden 98 because fucking America. So what are you going to need? We are going to need a couple of things. We need a Sega Saturn Model 2. And we're going to need an official Sega Saturn game. You need at least one real Sega Saturn game to do this with. And I'm using Madden 98, and I'll tell you why once I show you the process. You're going to want to use a cheap game for this. I'm using Madden 98 because they still sell for like $4 a piece with a box. So, which I have right here. So, yeah, so let's get to it, and this should be fun, and I hope that this video helps you enjoy a lot of the games that unfortunately we can't anymore because either they're not re-released or they're stupid expensive. And for those of you who are thinking about morality, like, oh, that's not nice, you shouldn't be doing that. Well, honestly, these games are like getting old now, and you're not really going to find them new to when you pay for them and then the developer gets the money, because honestly a lot of the developers don't even exist anymore, which is really unfortunate, but you know, we could at least appreciate the work they've done through the games they made, and since some of these games are so stupidly expensive, maybe it's your only resort. I mean, I use it more for backing up games that I already own, just because I don't want to mess with them. For instance, I have a copy of Sonic R that my little sister messed up a long time ago, when we were younger, and, you know, because of things like that, I want to be able to take my games and put them away somewhere and just use backup copies. The Sega Saturn's CD drive is really good, so it's not like you're gonna, you know, destroy your... Well, I mean, you technically are, but it's not like it's gonna die the next day. You know, you'll get some life out of it. Plus, there's a lot of Saturns out there, so... You know, you'll always be able to go find another one and do what you gotta do, or you can just change the freaking CD drive. So anyway, so just to give a lowdown of the process itself, all we're going to be doing is we're going to be opening the Sega Saturn. We're going to be taping back the little plastic piece that makes the motherboard think that this disc tray is closed. And then we're going to hot swap the disc while the disc tray is open and running. So pretty much the mod itself is to make it so that the console thinks that the disc drive is closed at all times, but it's, you know, really not, so that we can do things like pull the disc out while it's being read. So before we get to this, a couple of warnings. One, I am not responsible for what you do to your console. It is your own responsibility to make sure that you do this in a way that's not going to damage your console or you're going to hurt yourself. For two, this is a time window based procedure, so you have to do it at a certain speed, and you'll see why once I actually show you the process. So it can be kind of frustrating if you don't time it right. For three, always be very careful when taking a disc out while it's spinning, because you never know, because you're using unofficial, fucking burnt discs, blank discs you got laying somewhere. One of them could have, some type of fracture in it, and while it's spinning real fast, you grab it, you could always cut yourself. Be very, very careful when you do that, alright? I cannot stress that enough. Be careful, be smart, don't be stupid. For 3, when opening your console, make sure the power cable is not plugged in, which this one won't be. I've never really shocked myself working on this machine, but it's always best to not have a current running through the motherboard. I'm not going to get into a lesson on electromagnetism, but I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. So, yep, so just give a lowdown on the process. Like I said, we're going to mod the motherboard little plastic piece so that the motherboard thinks that the disk drive is open. The disk drive is closed at all times. And then, pretty much what we're going to do, we're going to take our burnt disc, pop it in, let the Sega Saturn load, let the Sega Saturn spit up the disc, read some data from it, rip that disc out, put our official Sega Saturn disc in, and then when you see the produced and licensed by Sega Bobbity Blah, you're going to reset the console, and then at that same point in time, rip out the official disc and put the burnt disc in, and it's going to read the burnt disc. I'm not going to get too crazy on the details, but pretty much what you're doing is, I'm going to have to dumb this down a lot. So you pull the header data off of this disc, and then you read the protection layer off of this disc, and then you read the game data off of this disc. So pretty much you're saying, load the header for this disc so that your CRC check works, take the DRM for this disc so that the console thinks it's legit when it's really not, and then take the game data from this disc when it's about to be read, and then it'll boot this disc. I've done this with, many different games, and it seems to work pretty well. A lot of people say that they had better success with smaller game ISOs. I can't really verify that. For me, it was just as easy to boot a copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga Disc 1. It was just as easy as booting the alpha for Sonic Extreme, which is like a 20 megabyte ISO. So, anyway, so let's get started, shall we? Alright, so here we have the Model 2 Sega Saturn, and you're going to want to take the screws out from the bottom, which there's 5 screws, with a standard Phillips head screwdriver, since Sega doesn't use any type of proprietary screws like Nintendo does. Damn fucking Triforce, Tri-Wing screws. You don't want to take them out from the bottom, which there's a screw here, there's a screw here, I believe there's a screw here, a screw here, a screw here, right there. You take those out, and then the top of the case is going to come right off. So as you can see, we pull the case off, and we're presented with the guts of the Saturn. Alright, so now what you want to do is, first off, ground yourself. Do not touch these electrical components when you have a charge, a static electricity charge in your hands. You could short something. So the only thing we're going to be doing to the Saturn is we're going to modify this little guy right here. Let me just kind of, let me get a little, see if I can get adjusted so that we can see that a little better. Alright, it's about as good as it's going to get. So this right here is what the disc tray, what the plastic on the disc tray will push back so that the motherboard thinks that it is actually closed. So literally you could just tape it. I use Scotch tape, and you just tape it back so that even when this disc tray is open, it's not pressing against that plastic piece. You should be good. So yeah, literally this guy right here, just tape that back. I wish I could zoom in a little more on that, but unfortunately I can't get it to focus well, so unfortunately. Anyway, so it's really easy. You literally just tape that little piece back, and now the Saturn will think that the disc tray is closed even if it's open. So next step we want to do is to test to make sure that that's actually working. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this thing in and hook it up, and I'll show you. Alright, so I have the Sega Saturn hooked up to my awesome retro TV back there, little CRT TV, and we're going to turn it on and see if it actually reads the disc. Now, normally in this situation, when you don't actually have the disc tray, the plastic shell, top portion of the plastic shell on the Saturn, it's going to think the disc tray is open since that little piece isn't being pressed. But since we actually taped it back, then it's going to just work. And I'll show you, so let me turn it on right here. So you see the disc starts spinning. Alright, it starts loading the disc. And there you have it. It's booting the game. So we got John Madden over there, because America. So there you have it. So that's the actual Saturn running. So now we know that the modification is working. Let's turn that shitty game off. So now the Saturn is ready to have the hot swap performed. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Saturn back together and we'll get started. Alright, so here's the big moment. So now we're ready to actually perform the hot swap. What we're gonna do is, like I said, we're gonna start with our burnt disc, put it in, then we're gonna swap to an official Saturn game, which I have Madden 98, because you're gonna want to use a shitty game to do this, because there's always a chance you might scratch it, putting it back on the Saturn or something like that, because you're gonna have to do it kind of fast. And then you're gonna switch back to the burnt disc, and it's gonna boot the burnt game. So before we do the hot swap, let me just show you the timing window that you have to actually perform the hot swap. So let's turn the console on. Now you see when the menu comes up, right when you hear that like done, you're gonna want to swap the disc, because that's when the disc is actually spinning up and being read. All right, so here we're gonna perform the hot swap. And so first thing you're going to need to know is the timing window to do so. So you're going to pop your burnt disc into the tray here. We're going to turn it on. And right when you get to that done, you're going to want to swap to the official disc. Alright, so let me show you how to do that. So we shut the console off so we get a nice fresh boot. And here, I am going to show you now how to perform the hot swap. So let's turn it on. Wait for it. Alright, put the official disc in. Now it's going to read the DRM from that disc. So once it gets to the produced under license, we're going to reset. And right when that done happens, you'll see the disc spins faster, and then you swap it back to the burnt disc, and there you have it. The burnt disc boots. And here we have Initial D. Pretty awesome, right? I haven't run into a game that doesn't work with this method. Just to show you, we got a burnt disc running in the Saturn. All thanks to our good friend, John Madden. America. This is a really awesome game, by the way. So anyway, guys, that's how you hot swap on the Saturn. I hope this video helps you be able to do that. So, as always, have a nice day.